Quite often in Commander, the board state gets really complicated. Somebody's going off, maybe two people are just way overpowered on the board compared to everybody else. If you're so far behind, you need to catch up. One of the easiest ways to do that in Commander is, of course, a board wipe. But sometimes people take the board wipes for granted, and sometimes they're not running the proper board wipes. Let's take a look at 10 of these board wipes that I feel are extremely underrated that people need to take a second look at. What's up, everybody? My name's Matt and you're watching Top Commander. So today I wanted to talk about 10 different board wipe effects. Now I am using the term board wipes very loosely because some of these may not seem like board wipes to most people. But these are cards that are very cheap alternatives. Not everybody has the money to pay for a Cyclonic Rift every time they build a deck with blue. I understand this. This is why these are budget alternatives for the most part. The most expensive one here maybe is $5. But these are budget options that people need to take a second look at because they are board wipes, but they also give you value in different ways, of course. So let's go ahead and see what exactly I'm talking about as far as giving yourself value from a board wipe. Starting off with Martial Coup, a sorcery for X and 2 white, create X 1/1 white soldier creature tokens. If X is 5 or more, destroy all other creatures. So this is an X spell in white. 2 white and X, you get that many white soldiers. Little 1/1s, but if you're casting it for at least 7 mana, so X is equal to 5 and the 2 white, 7 mana, you get a Wrath of God effect, but it's a little bit better. It does destroy your creatures, but if you're paying X equal to 5, you now have blockers available because you get that many 1/1s. Cards like this are very underutilized. A lot of people take these cards for granted. These cards cost pennies, maybe $2, $3, $5 tops. But these are all cards that a lot of people should take a look at because when you're in a pinch, sometimes you need a really good board wipe that can give you some additional value. So, moving on to the next one, Decree of Pain. 6 generic, 2 black for a sorcery. Destroy all creatures. They can't be regenerated. Draw a card for each creature destroyed this way. It also has cycling for 3 generic and 2 black, where you discard this card and get to draw a card. And, on top of that, when you cycle Decree of Pain, all creatures get -2/-2 until end of turn. Now, if some of these are looking familiar, both of these so far have been printed in the Commander Precons multiple times. They're very cheap, but they're very underutilized. When you look at Martial Coup, 7 mana to wipe the board and get 5 1/1s. Everybody's like, why would I do 7 mana for that? Well, you spend 7 mana for a Cyclonic Rift, and if you ain't got the budget for a Cyclonic Rift, here's an alternative. Decree of Pain is 1 more mana, and it does the exact same thing as Wrath of God, and then some. It's double the mana, yes, but you get to draw cards. It's a board wipe that's drawing you cards. Even if you cycle it, you still get to draw a card, and all creatures get -2/-2. And the cool thing about cycling is, you can do that at instant speed. So if you're running against somebody running a token deck, maybe somebody Martial Coup'd the board, gave the soldiers haste somehow, and they're swinging in at you, you can cycle Decree of Pain and -2/-2 those tokens from Martial Coup, draw a card, and you're good. Because now at that point, Decree of Pain has replaced itself in your hand with the cycling effect. Again, just added value. And the fact that it has 2 separate modes of a board wipe on it also makes a little bit more sense. Because, let's face it, a lot of the cards that we use in Commander, we like using them because they give us different options. Like some of the charms. The charms are great because they give you 3 or 4 modes. But, let's move on to the next one. This is a fairly new one, and I'm actually not quite sure how many people use this according to EDH Rec, but it's not one that I see very often. Flood of Tears. A sorcery for 4 generic and 2 blue. Return all non-land permanents to their owner's hands. If you return 4 or more non-token permanents you control this way, you may put a permanent card from your hand onto the battlefield. Okay. So this is a 6 mana sorcery speed Cyclonic Rift the whole board. But you're bouncing your stuff too. Now, the cool thing about that is they're not gone. You're not destroying your stuff. It's back in your hand, so it can kind of help you get back in the sway of things. So if somebody's running a token deck, okay, and they're just overwhelming the board with tokens, you just Flood of Tears, bounce everything back, tokens go away. They don't go to the hand, because they technically don't exist, in a sense. And then when you bounce your whole board, it's non-land permanents, but if you're bouncing 4 or more of your cards back to your hand, you get to have one of them automatically come in for free. And it doesn't have to be the ones that you bounce back. Let that sink in for a minute. So you can bounce back your whole board, and let's say you're stuck at 6 mana, 7 mana, 8 mana. You can bounce back your whole board and drop in a Blightsteel Colossus off of Flood of Tears, and then when it comes back around to you, you can start throwing your stuff back out on the board and start deploying your board back to where it was. Again, added value. There's a lot of different cards, a lot of different board wipes that give you additional value on top of just wiping the board. But a lot of people just don't seem to use them very often. So, speaking of Cyclonic Rift and one-sided board wipes, let's take a look at Volcanic Vision. 5 generic and 2 red for a sorcery. Return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. Volcanic Vision deals damage equal to that card's converted mana cost to each creature your opponents control. Then you exile Volcanic Vision. Alright, so, to put that in perspective, if you Flood of Tears for 6 mana, bounce the whole board, get one of your things into play, and then let's say you want to do it again. You Volcanic Vision, you get that card back to your hand for next turn, but you're also dealing 6 damage to all of your opponent's creatures. This helps you reuse your instants and sorceries. Granted, it exiles itself at the end of the turn, so it's a one-time deal, unless you have ways of copying it, which there's a lot of ways to do that. But you get to recycle your instants and sorceries and use them over again. That's just added value. And it's a one-sided board wipe because it only hits your opponent's creatures. Now, if your opponent has bigger creatures than, say, 6 or 8 power or toughness, then you've probably got bigger problems to worry about at that point. But for the most part, Volcanic Vision, if you hit a big enough instant or sorcery, will wipe the board entirely. So, when it comes to these board wipes giving you value, you gotta just look at what's the upside for you. After you do this, what's the upside? There's a lot of times where that can come into play. And people just need to take a second look at some of these cards. They're cheap, they're budget, and they come with so many upsides on them that it's unreal. Speaking of, single combat. Everybody should remember this one. It got printed in War of the Spark. It's a sorcery for 3 generic and 2 white. Each player chooses a creature or planeswalker they control, then sacrifices the rest. Players cannot cast creature or planeswalker spells until the end of your next turn. Now, this is a personal pet card of mine. I hardly see a lot of people. I don't see a lot of people use this card, but this is a particular pet card of mine. I run in Feather the Redeemed and SRAM, Senior Edificer. Any kind of Voltron deck that's in white, this is a board wipe where you can keep your Voltron monster if maybe you don't have Indestructible on them. You have everybody choose a creature, you're picking your biggest, baddest Voltron-y monster, your commander, sacking everything else. And it's just hitting creatures. But at the same time, players cannot cast creature or planeswalker spells until the end of your next turn. So if you start the turn off with a single combat, everybody sacrifices all but one creature or planeswalker. You swing in with your Voltron monster, and then you pass turn. They can't cast creatures. They can't cast planeswalkers. They're stuck with what they got. It's kind of a stun effect on the player itself. They can't cast creatures. So, and it takes care of tokens, because who's going to keep the little 1/1 token over the thing that is producing the tokens, or however. So single combat is another one that just provides additional value in a different way. But what about card effects, board wipe effects that would give you additional value in a completely different just a completely different way? More particular, the political sense, because you're in a 4-player game. Cyclonic Rift is a great card. It's powerful, yes, but unless you're going to win with it, it's not exactly the best thing to do. Let's be real. Because as soon as you Cyclonic Rift the board, the rest of the players are probably going to look at you like, you Cyclonic Rifted the board, we're coming at you now. Because their board state is gone, yours is intact. That's how people look at that. So what if you had ways of getting around that with something like Hex? It's a sorcery for 4 generic and 2 black. Destroy 6 target creatures. Now, like I said, not all of these are considered board wipes by most people, but at any given time, when you Cyclonic Rift a board, do you really need to get rid of all of the creatures? Or is maybe a couple of creatures on the field just more problematic than others? Hex lets you get around that. Your friend's running a token deck. You just made a deal with him. You can't run a single combat and blow up his board because you made a deal with him, right? So you're trying to take care of 2 other players at the table, and maybe this guy has a couple of hate bears, this guy's got a big scary thing, and they're teamed up, and it's you and him. You made a deal with him. So a card like Hex will give you that political value to just be like, alright, I'm just going to destroy that, and you pick 6 targets. Political value goes a long way in Commander. 4 players, you need to try to make deals with some people. You're going to have allies, you're going to end up having enemies, and things like that happen so often. So having cards that might help you in that aspect would definitely look better on you in a political aspect. Now, speaking of Hex, let's go on to the blue version of it, which is Ether Gale. A sorcery for 3 generic and 2 blue. Return 6 target non-land permanents to their owner's hands. Now, again, same scenario. You pick 6 targets and then bounce them to their owner's hands. So this is the same thing as Hex, only this is non-land, so it's anything pretty much on the board other than lands. So when you're using cards like this gives you the option to do specific targets. You don't have to break a deal with somebody, and you can still get a somewhat of a board wipe-ish effect. Because think about it, 6 non-land permanents? Cyclonic Rift, I've seen Cyclonic Rift used on a board where the only thing that really bounced that was a problem was a Blightsteel Colossus. Granted, was that a good play? Absolutely. But if that was the only thing that was really a problem, why not use Ether Gale on that player's Blightsteel Colossus and all their mana rocks? Reset their board. Speaking of resetting somebody's board, this is another one that can really come in handy that a lot of people should consider. River's Rebuke for 4 generic and 2 blue for sorcery. Return all non-land permanents target player controls to their owner's hands. Single target Cyclonic Rift at sorcery speed for 1 less mana. That can give you so much political value, it's not even funny. This guy's going off. Okay, I can handle his board, but if I do that, I can't do anything to any of y'all, so can y'all give me like a turn or two? By the way, when it comes to making deals and you're trying to buy a turn or two, try not to go over that. If you get more than 2 turns of value of nobody messing with you, you're probably going to end up winning that game if they hold true to their deal. So be careful about how you do deals with people. But River's Rebuke is another one. I believe this one's about $3.50 or $4. It's very cheap, very budget. And it's a single target cyclonic, and it's a sorcery speed, so it's very, very fair. And it's not bouncing the whole board. Speaking of single target cyclonics, well, not exactly. The next one is Aetherize. It's an instant for 3 generic and a blue. Return all attacking creatures to their owner's hand. Alright, so somebody has a token deck or is just running an aggressive strategy. They keep swinging at you, but you're not trying to bounce your buddy's board. Again, it's the same aspect. So he comes and swings at you. Well, this is an instant speed. I'm going to just bounce all of your creatures back to your hand. Again, political value goes a long way in Commander. There's a lot of things that people gotta realize. Cyclonic Rift is powerful, it can win you the game. But a lot of times, unless you're winning the game, it's not really correct to Cyclonic Rift the board. If you have no way of capitalizing and winning that game, you just slow down the game. It put you ahead, yes, sure, absolutely. But now everybody is looking at you. Not very helpful in the political arena. Alright, and the last card, I really just wanted to mention this one because this one is actually just really funny to watch it go off. Mirror Match. 4 generic and 2 blue for an instant. Cast Mirror Match only during the Declare Blocker's step. For each creature attacking you or a planeswalker you control, put a token that's a copy of that creature onto the battlefield, blocking that creature. Exile those tokens at the end of combat. Okay, so this is a little bit better than Aetherize in the fact that Aetherize bounces their board. Unless your opponent's field is full of indestructible creatures, you're just going to mirror match them, and they either are going to bounce or they're going to trade entirely. And it's funny if they all trade, because a lot of people don't expect mirror match to be played. Again, very cheap, was printed in the Commander Precons a couple of years back actually, and these are all cards that give you that little extra value, because the value for mirror match, you're only stopping one player's board from attacking you by making their own creatures destroy their creatures, leaving your board alone. All you used was one card, took out all of their creatures with copies of their creatures. Now, these are the kind of things that a lot of people need to look at. I feel like a lot of these cards are very underutilized in Commander. Yes, Cyclonic Rift is a great card, but is it correct to run it all the time? Is it correct to Cyclonic Rift the board at certain stages of the game if you don't have the win because politically that looks bad on you, and people are just going gang up until you're dead. So timing is a lot of importance when it comes to these kind of things. Timing, and just look at the whole game entirely. Is it correct to do this? Can I win when I do this? Is this board wipe in my hand going to officially put me in the lead somehow? Is it going to set somebody back? Is it going to set me back to the point that I can't catch back up? These are board wipes that can give you that additional value that can potentially put you maybe a little bit ahead. Who knows? It all depends on the board state and what's going on with your meta. But again, just remember, Commander is a casual format. It's made to have fun. Just have fun with your friends. It's a game. Nobody needs to have any hurt feelings about a Cyclonic Rift, honestly. Especially when you can counter it, or Narset's reversal it. But that's all I have for the day. I will hopefully have the next video up next week. I kind of had a little bit of trouble recently. That's why it's taken 2 weeks to get this video out. But if you do like this channel, or any of the videos that I put up, or any of the content that I've created for you guys, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment down below if there's any board wipes that you feel are underrated. Maybe there's a board wipe that's a pet card of yours as well. Let me know down in the comments. And also, if you wish to support this channel directly, be sure to check out patreon.com/topcommander. It's capital T, capital C. We'll have that right here on the screen. And check out the different tier levels, and maybe you can get a shout out and be a part of the show yourself. But until then, just keep it casual, keep it fun, and take it easy until next time.